Hello everybody, cheers to the majestic Monday. We are discussing chapter number 3 from Moments Iswaran the storyteller. We were discussing it at a point where Iswaran was narrating Mahendra a story about elephant and how he tackled and tamed the elephant as a young boy in one of the junior classes at that time, where all were scared to death of the elephant. He was bold enough to come down and tame the elephant and put it down, lay sprawling on the ground. This was yet to be unfurled how he did that. But when the story was at its climax and Mahendra was totally annealed and engrossed into the story, he would purposefully probably lay the story unfinished and get up and go to do perform some kitchen work and then come back, leaving Mahindra the master meanwhile to estimate what would come up next. This was probably his strategy, okay, to get the engagement of the listener. So today he is to share with Mahendra, who is all the more curious to know how he managed to tame that big, huge, gigantic elephant, the mammoth beast. Let us find it out, dear students. I switch myself off. Yes. So we were reading it here. Let me read this paragraph for the sake of revival. Let's renew this. At this point, yes, I'm reading here. We had read this paragraph yesterday. I'm reading it again. Okay. At this point, Eastern would leave the story unfinished and get up mumbling, I told you, speaking something to yourself or speaking something in a very soft voice so that it is hardly audible to the other. I'll be back after lighting the gas and warming up the dinner. Mahindra, who had been listening with rapt attention, was totally annealed into it and was mesmerized spellbindingly, was listening to the story. He would be left hanging in the midair and utterly confused and earnest. When he returned, Iswaran would not pick up the thread of the story right away. He would first lay the foundation, making it more mysterious and curious for the listener. Mahendra would have to remind him that the conclusion was pending, and then he would gather up. Well, a veterinary doctor was summoned to revive the animal. Here's the elephant, and the elephant was cleared off. The veterinary doctor, the doctor of animals, Eastern would shrug casually that 2 days later it was led away by its Mahawat to the jungle. Mahawat I explained already, the one who tames the elephant. He would say it so casually as if it was nothing a big deal for him, right? This is why it is written. Ishwaran would shrug casually. Shrug shoulders is a movement of the body that shows that something is not very important and it is on the cards. So how did he bring down the beast was the question, and we are to read it from here today. Then he explained it has something to do with a Japanese art. I think so. Karate, or you may say jujitsu. Jujitsu, it is called. I had read about it somewhere. It temporarily paralyzes the nervous system and gets the animal or anyone it is applied on faint for a while or unconscious for a while. This is a technique where you can temporarily paralyze the nervous system. Not a day passed, so that was about the story of an elephant. Similarly, not a day passed without Iswaran recounting some story packed with adventure. Recounting means to recall, to remember, recollect. So there was not a day passed without Iswaran recounting some story packed with adventure, horror, and suspense. Whether the story was credible or not, credible means something you can believe, means believable. Mahendra enjoyed listening to it because at times there was a supernatural element in the story most of the times rather, that was not credible, that was not like believable, but it did not matter to Mahendra. He would enjoy listening to it because of the inimitable way. Inimitable means unparalleled, means peerless, a way like no other, right? So his inimitable, his unique way in which the story was told. Eastern seemed to more than make up for the absence of a TV in Mahendra's living quarters. He never let Mahendra feel the absence of TV. He would compensate the absence of TV through his stories and his jovial character and his wholesome presence. One morning, when Mahendra was having breakfast, Eastern asked, "Can I make something special for dinner tonight, sir?" Dear students, I'm not going to explain all the things that are on the go, like that was very plain sailing. So there's nothing to elaborate and extrapolate in these lines. This is very plain text. So still you can ask me, right? So one morning when Mahendra was having breakfast, Eastern asked him, like, "Can I make something special for dinner tonight, sir? After all, today is an auspicious day, means a holiday, a day of festivity, an important day. According to tradition, we prepare various delicacies to feed the spirits of our ancestors today, sir." Now, what is this called? Feeding the ancestors is commemorating their, death anniversary. We feed some Brahmins, as in our culture, as a tradition, as a customary. So this is what he was talking about. And generally, we prepare kheer and such things, right? So that night, Mahendra enjoyed the most delicious dinner and complimented Iswaran. He admired him, he congratulated him, he appreciated him on his culinary skills. Culinary skills means cooking skills. Culinary is related to cooking. He seemed very pleased, very happy, but unexpectedly launched into a most garish account involving the supernatural. Right, so what happened next? So all of a sudden he launched into narrating another story. There was a garish account. Garish means, you know, colorful and lively and clear and vivid. So he started narrating the most garish account, and that involved a supernatural element. It's about ghosts and all, ghosts and spirits. So what was that account? Let us read. What Iswaran and how he started. Sir, this entire factory area we are occupying was once a burial ground. He started getting nerves out of, Mahindra. Burial ground is where the dead bodies are buried. It's called a burial ground. So Iswaran drew his attention towards the fact, not knowing if it was a fact or he was just making it up. It was just a figment of his imagination. It was just a concocted story. So, like the area where we are dwelling, using it as a abode, was once a burial ground. Mahendra was jerked out of the pleasant reverie he had drifted into after the satisfying meal. Now, after the dinner, he started narrating the story, and all the reverie, all the delight and delicacy he was enjoying was faded away into the thin air as soon as Mahendra said this, and he was feeling jittery as somebody was pulling life out of him. I knew on the first day itself when I saw a human skull lying on the path. Even now, I come across a number of skulls and bones. Yes, this is very frequently that I come across skulls and bones spread around or lying around here. Eastern continued. So that is the evidence, that is the testimony to the fact that the place had once been a burial ground. You can see how he picturized it, how he visualized it, right? This is pure imagination. He went on to narrate how he sometimes saw ghosts at night. I'm not easily frightened by these things, sir, he added to it. I am a brave fellow, but one horrible ghost of a woman which appears off and on, means now and then, at midnight during the full moon. It is an ugly creature with matted hair, tangled hair, rough hair, and a shriveled face, a shrunken face, shriveled, like a skeleton holding a fetus in its arm. Fetus is, you understand, a biological term. Fetus is an embryo or a small child in the womb. So every day, what would see, he would see a horrible ghost of a woman which appears off and on, time and again at midnight. Come and go, come and go. This is off and on during the full moon. And it's an ugly creature with matted hair and shriveled face. See, you may be asked to describe that ghost. So this is all about the ghost given here. So it's an ugly creature, matted hair, shriveled face, like a skeleton, and was always seen holding a fetus in its arms. Mahendra shivered at the description, shivered with fear. He was so dreaded and frightened and scared to death the way Eastman described that woman ghost, and he could feel the presence of ghost around him. And he interrupted rather sharply, "You are crazy, Eastman. No, this is not true. There are no such things as ghosts or spirits." It is easy to say this, but it is difficult to believe. We all have heard it millions of times that there are no spirits or ghosts. Still we are afraid of ghosts. Easy said than done. It is all a figment of your imagination. It's not fact. It's not real. Mahendra said, "Get your digestive system examined. You are out of your sorts. You are not well, it seems. You're saying anything. And maybe your head is also not well. You are totally out of sorts. You have gone mad. You have gone silly. You are probably daft in your head. What are you talking? You're talking such nonsense, Iswaran?" Mahendra said. He barked at him. He smirked at him. He left the room and retired for the night, expecting Iswaran to sulk for a couple of days. Yes, sulk means to behave in a sly or a cunning way, as if you are upset or as if you are resented. Yes, because he in a way scolded or chided him, so he was expecting a rude behavior from Iswaran, who was not feeling equal to it. But the next morning he was surprised to find that the cook was cheerful and he did not mind his words the previous evening. And he was cheerful and talkative as ever. From that day on, Mahendra, for all his brave talk, went to bed with sudden unease. Yes, for the fear of ghost, he was feeling always jittery every night. When it was time to retire for the night, the image of the ghost would flash up into his mind, and he would feel the presence of ghost around him, and making him totally uneasy. Every night he peered into the darkness. He looked into the darkness outside through the window next to his bed. He was trying to make sure that there was no movement. He was trying to make sure that there was no ghost and there was no spirit around or around the area. In the vicinity means area surrounding the place is the vicinity, the area around. But he could only see a sea of darkness. Nothing he could see out of the window else than the darkness, never-ending darkness, with the twinkling lights of the factory miles away. Nothing else was visible. And that was satisfying to him in a way that there was at least no ghost. This is 14 minutes already. Let me see if we can. Yeah, it can easily be done. One night, Mahendra was woken up from his sleep. Now I'll be reading it quickly, dear students, because I don't want the video to exceed 19 or 20 minutes. It's a real difficulty uploading such a heavy file. So Let me read it a little quickly than usual. So he had always liked to admire the milk white landscape on the full moon nights, but after hearing, otherwise he always liked full moon nights when it is quite sparky. But after hearing Eastwan's story of the female ghost, he avoided looking out of the window on full moon night. One night, Mahendra was woken up from his sleep by a low moan crowing close to his window. He heard a moaning as if someone was crying in pain, right? So he heard a low moan close to his window. At first, he put it down to a cat prowling around the mice. Maybe he thought there is a cat purring around and chasing the mice. Prowling is the sound made, but the sound was too guttural. Guttural is a sound produced through throat. It was too guttural and too heavy for a cat. It did not seem to be that of a cat. He resisted the curiosity to look out. He wanted to look out, but he somehow suppressed his curiosity, and decided against looking out, lest he should behold a sight, because he did not want to uh, confront such a sight which would stop his heart pounding. But the wailing became louder and louder, and it became less feline. Feline is something related to the cat family. So what happened? He didn't see outside, though he wanted to see outside, but the crying and groaning sound, the moaning, became louder and louder, and it seemed to be less feline, not related to cat. He could not resist the temptation anymore, so he finally looked out. Lowering himself to the level of the windowsill, he looked out at the white sheet of moonlight outside. There, not too far away, there was a dark, cloudy form clutching a bundle. Clutching means gripping in hands, as if there was a cloudy form or a figure and was clutching at the bundle. Mahendra broke into a cold sweat. A chill ran down his spine, threatening him, threatening life out of him, and he fell back on the pillow, panting means breathing heavily, out of breath. As he gradually recovered from the ghastly experience, he began to reason with himself. He started putting logic to it, putting science, and tried being skeptic about it, try thinking scientifically about it, and he finally concluded that it must have been some sort of auto-suggestion, a makeup of his mind, some trick that his subconscious has played on him. Because when Iswaran, I told you earlier as well, that sometimes the story, even though it is fictitious, gets into your subconscious and resurfaces time and again, haunting you. By the time he had got up in the morning, he had a bath and come out to have his breakfast. The horror of the previous night had faded already from his memory. Yes, we always feel we don't feel afraid generally in the morning time or at daytime, even if we are alone. Such feelings haunt us only at the night time, as soon as the darkness progresses and descends down. Eastman greeted him at the door with his lunch packet and his bag like usual. Just as Mahendra was stepping out, Eastman grinned and said, Eastman grin means to smile feebly. Sir, remember the other day when I was telling you about the female ghost with the fetus in its arms? He just reminded him of that ghost they were talking about. You were so angry with me for imagining things. You remember that day when you just shouted on me? Well, you saw her yourself last night, right, sir? I came running hearing because I came to you. You were shouting like anything, help, help. You were clamoring for help, and I came running hearing the sound of moaning that was coming from your room. That means what? It was not any girl moaning, it was not any cat prowling, it was he himself making such noises. A chill went down Mahindra's spine again. He was again dreaded. He did not wait for each one to complete his sentence. He just hurried away to his office and handed in his papers, resolving to leave the haunted place. He had already made his mind up that they would need like leave this place and change the lodgings. This by R.K. Laxman. So it was very interesting. I found it very interesting, and I find it interesting every time I teach it. I hope it was very intriguing and amusing for you as well. So now it is time for you to work upon these questions. There is some suggested reading as well. Canterville Ghost is again a wonderful story you can read. The Storyteller by Saki is also quite good. Ruskin Bond is all-time favorite, and his ghost stories are quite wonderful, quite realistic. Threat in the House, though I have less idea about, but it must also be a wonderful story written by Ruskin Bond. So keep reading because this lockdown has been extended once again, so it's a golden opportunity. This way you get grand opportunity, read more and more stuff. So this is all for today, dear students. I take your leave. See you tomorrow with another chapter. Thank you and have a nice day.